Billionaire husband neglected wife for 5 months, until a selfie that changed everything. A billionaire saw one photo of his wife smiling with another man, and within minutes, he abandoned a $50 million deal to chase a marriage he'd already lost. But when he got home, the truth waiting for him was worse than betrayal. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're tuned in and ready to dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. The penthouse was too quiet for a home. Rebecca Johnson Whitmore moved through it like a ghost in silk, her reflection trailing across marble floors, her perfume lingering longer than her voice ever did. The city glimmered beneath her balcony, but it was cold light, distant, indifferent, like the man who once promised her forever. Her phone buzzed. She turned it over. Another notification. Whitmore Industries stock surges again. Never a message from Tony. She smiled faintly, not out of happiness, but habit, a mask she had learned to wear. Somewhere in that glittering skyline, her husband was closing another deal, probably surrounded by the same glass and silence that filled their home. She walked into their bedroom, pristine, untouched. On the nightstand sat a photo, their wedding day. His smile then was soft, almost boyish. Her eyes glowed with belief. She ran a finger along the frame, whispering, "Where did we go?" Across town, Tony Whitmore stared at a wall of numbers, half listening to his board of directors. Success was oxygen, constant, consuming. His assistant, Rachel, read off quarterly gains, but his mind drifted, unbidden, to Rebecca's quiet face that morning. She hadn't said a word during breakfast. Neither had he. It was easier that way. No confrontations. No guilt. When his phone buzzed, he expected another investor alert. Instead, it was a calendar reminder. Rebecca's birthday. He blinked, jaw tightening. "Send her something nice," he muttered to Rachel, not looking up. "Flowers. Cake. The usual." She nodded, but there was pity in her eyes. Tony didn't notice. He never did. That evening, Rebecca sat alone at a table set for two. The chef had prepared her favorite meal, salmon with lemon butter. She didn't touch it. The candles burned low. Her reflection in the wineglass looked like someone she barely knew. Then came the knock. A gentle, polite tap that didn't belong to Tony. She opened the door to find a young man holding a cake and flowers. "Delivery for Mrs. Whitmore," he said, smiling shyly. Rebecca's heart squeezed. "From my husband?" He hesitated. "His office, yes, ma'am." The lie was kind, and she appreciated it. She accepted the gifts, eyes glistening. The delivery man, Marcus, lingered a moment, unsure whether to leave. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked softly. Rebecca laughed, a brittle sound that cracked at the edges. "I'm fine. Just another birthday." Marcus grinned kindly. "Well, happy birthday anyway. You should smile for it." Something in his tone, simple, human, melted the numbness for a moment. On impulse, Rebecca lifted her phone. "Mind if we take a quick photo? So I can remember someone actually said that to me today." He chuckled, leaning in. Click. The flash caught more than light. It captured the ache beneath her smile, the longing, the emptiness, the flicker of hope. As Marcus left, she looked at the photo again. Felt like breathing for the first time in months. Without thinking, she posted it to her private Instagram with the caption, "Sometimes kindness comes from strangers." Outside, the city hummed. Inside, the candle flame wavered, as if it already sensed a storm coming. Have you ever felt invisible in a relationship that looked perfect from the outside? Share your thought. Morning sunlight cut through the curtains like accusation. Rebecca's phone wouldn't stop vibrating. She blinked sleepily, expecting a few birthday messages from old friends. Instead, her screen overflowed with notifications, comments, likes, messages from people she hadn't spoken to in years. Her chest tightened. The selfie, the one she took with Marcus, had somehow escaped her private circle. Someone had shared it. The caption she'd written so casually now looked like a confession to the world. Sometimes kindness comes from strangers. The photo had gone viral overnight. Rebecca scrolled through the comments, her heart hammering. That delivery guy looks lucky. Isn't that Tony Whitmore's wife? Wow. She deserves better. Her throat went dry. She hadn't meant to humiliate Tony. She just wanted to feel human, to be seen. Down in his office, Tony was already seeing it. Rachel burst into the boardroom, pale. "Tony, you need to look at this." He frowned, annoyed by the interruption. "Not now." She slid her phone across the table. One photo, one caption. His wife, smiling beside another man. The internet was already making its own story. The room fell silent. His executives glanced away, uncomfortable. Tony stared at the screen, every muscle in his jaw tightening. The photo wasn't provocative. It wasn't wrong, but it felt wrong. Rebecca's smile was real. Too real. He left the meeting without a word. His driver didn't dare ask questions. By the time he reached the penthouse, the air felt charged, thick with something between rage and shame. Rebecca was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, trying to make sense of it all. Tony's voice was cold. "You enjoying your little spotlight?" She looked up, startled. "Tony, do you have any idea what people are saying?" "It's just a picture," she whispered. His laugh was sharp, bitter. "A picture of my wife with another man. You think that's just a picture?" Her eyes filled with tears, but she refused to look away. "It was my birthday. You didn't even call. He brought the flowers you ordered. I just wanted to remember that moment." Tony paced the room, running a hand through his hair. "You embarrassed me, Rebecca." "I didn't mean to embarrass you," she said softly. "I just wanted to feel like someone remembered I existed." The silence that followed was suffocating. He couldn't respond, not because she was wrong, but because she was right. He turned away, voice trembling with anger he didn't understand. "Take it down." "I already did." The quiet stretched between them, sharp as glass. Rebecca finally spoke again, voice low but steady. "You know what's funny? Everyone online thinks I'm the one who found love somewhere else. But the truth is, I've been alone for months, while being married to you." Tony flinched. The words hit harder than any scandal could. She stood, brushing away tears that refused to stop. If a single picture can ruin us, maybe there wasn't much left to ruin. And with that, she walked past him, leaving the scent of jasmine and heartbreak in the air. Tony sank into a chair, staring at the now dark phone screen. The image of her smile burned behind his eyes. He'd spent years chasing power, but for the first time he realized what real loss felt like. Do you think Tony had the right to be angry, or was Rebecca's loneliness justified? Drop your thoughts below. The next few days moved like fog, thick, cold, and directionless. Tony buried himself in work again, staying out late, locking himself in meetings that never seemed to end. Rebecca stopped waiting up for him. They became strangers sharing a last name and a home filled with echoes. Every evening, she heard the elevator doors slide open, his footsteps crossing the marble, the faint smell of his cologne. The only proof he still lived there. One night, she heard him stop outside her bedroom. His hand brushed the doorknob. He hesitated, then kept walking. Inside, Rebecca stared at her reflection in the vanity mirror. Her eyes looked tired, older somehow. The viral selfie had faded from the internet's attention, but not from their lives. The distance between her and Tony had become a wall of silence. Her phone lit up again. A text from Marcus, the delivery man. Marcus. Hey, Mrs. Whitmore. Hope I didn't cause trouble. I just saw the news. Rebecca, you didn't. Don't worry. Marcus. You okay? Rebecca paused, then typed slowly. Rebecca trying to be. She didn't send another message. She didn't need to. The conversation was a reminder, not of attraction but of humanity. Someone cared enough to ask if she was okay. Meanwhile, Tony sat alone in his office, staring at the same picture again. He zoomed in on her smile. A real one, soft and effortless. When was the last time she smiled like that for him? He told himself she was wrong to post it, that she'd humiliated him. But underneath the anger was something smaller, more dangerous, guilt. Rachel entered quietly. Sir, investors are asking for a comment about the photo scandal. Tony didn't look up. No comment. It's personal. Rachel nodded. Then, after a pause, added softly, she looked happy in it. He glared. Excuse me, Rebecca. She looked really happy. Maybe that's all she wanted. Tony's throat tightened. He dismissed her with a curt nod, but her words lingered. Tony's throat tightened. He dismissed her with a curt nod, but her words lingered. That night, he came home to find Rebecca in the kitchen. The air between them was brittle. I talked to our PR team, Tony said stiffly. They'll handle any remaining fallout. I already handled it, Rebecca replied, not looking at him. The internet moved on. You can too. Tony's temper flared. Why are you being like this? She turned slowly, meeting his eyes. Like what, Tony? Honest. I'm trying to protect us. Us? She repeated, a bitter laugh slipping out. There is no us. There's you, your empire, your image. And then there's me, the woman who lives in your shadow. He opened his mouth, but no words came. She walked past him, brushing his shoulder gently. Not with affection, but finality. Her voice trembled as she spoke. You know what hurts most? Not that you were angry. It's that you never once asked why I did it. She left him standing there, the sound of her footsteps echoing down the hall. For the rest of the night, Tony sat alone, staring at the empty seat beside him. The silence that filled the penthouse was deafening. He thought he could outwork his emotions, but no deal, no profit margin could drown the sound of her absence. And deep down, under the pride and pain, he began to fear something he'd never dared to admit. He was losing her for real this time. If you were Rebecca, would you stay and fight for love? Or walk away after being ignored for months? Tell me your honest thoughts below. A storm rolled over New York, sheets of rain blurring the skyline into watercolor gray. The city pulsed with rumors again, only this time not about the selfie. Someone had leaked an internal memo from Whitmore Industries, claiming insider trading. The headlines spread fast. Whitmore Empire under fire. Sources say billionaire Tony Whitmore faces investigation. Tony didn't sleep that night. His phone rang nonstop. His attorney's voice buzzed through the line. You'll need to stay out of sight for a while, Tony. Let the noise die down. Out of sight. The words rang hollow. By morning, reporters swarmed the building entrance. Cameras flashed. Voices shouted questions that pierced the thunder. Mr. Whitmore, is it true your wife's viral photo was a cover distraction? Has your marriage fallen apart? Rebecca woke to the chaos outside. The shouting, the storm, the city's collective heartbeat at their door. When Tony finally came upstairs, his suit was soaked, his expression unreadable. Security says we shouldn't leave for a few days, he said simply. Rebecca blinked. We? You mean you're staying here? He met her eyes for the first time in weeks. Looks like it. The first day passed in silence. He worked from the study. She stayed in the kitchen, reading, pretending not to hear him pacing. But every hour or so, they crossed paths, at the coffee maker, in the hallway, in the quiet moments where words threatened to rise but died before they reached their lips. By the second evening, Rebecca broke first. She was pouring tea when she heard a faint sound, something she hadn't heard in months. Tony humming. He stood by the window, looking out over the rain, tapping his fingers against the glass. An old habit from when he used to play piano. "You still do that?" she said softly. He turned, startled. "Do what?" "The window thing." She smiled faintly. "You used to play piano when you were thinking." He chuckled dryly. "Haven't had time." "You never do," she said. Not cruelly, just honestly. For a moment, neither spoke. The storm outside softened to drizzle. He poured himself a cup of her tea and sat across from her, awkward but present. Rebecca studied him. His eyes looked tired, his hair a little out of place. The armor of the billionaire had cracks now. "You're really in trouble, aren't you?" she asked. Tony exhaled. "It's not what they're saying. But, yeah, it's bad press. Investors panic easily. Do you ever get tired of fixing everything except us?" she asked. He looked down, fingers tightening around the cup. "I didn't realize we were broken until it was too late." "That's the thing about silence," she said quietly. "You don't notice it's killing you until it's all that's left." For the first time, Tony didn't argue. He just nodded. Later that night, she found him asleep on the couch, the TV flickering over his face. A half-written email glowed on the laptop beside him. To Rebecca, "I don't know how to say this out loud, but..." She smiled sadly, covering him with a blanket. For a moment, she let her hand linger on his shoulder. It was the smallest gesture, but it was the first bridge rebuilt. Can being forced to stay together heal what time has broken, or just make the cracks deeper? What would you feel in Rebecca's place? The storm had passed, but its shadow lingered. The world outside still buzzed with headlines, yet the penthouse had grown strangely peaceful, as if both of them were afraid to break the quiet. That evening, Rebecca found Tony in the living room, sitting in the half-light. He wasn't working for once. The TV screen was frozen on an old video, grainy, flickering, but familiar. It was them, their wedding day. Rebecca's laughter filled the room, captured in the recording. Her eyes were bright, her hands clasped in his as they danced under a string of golden lights. The sight hit her like a forgotten melody. She stood in the doorway, whispering, "You still have that?" Tony didn't turn immediately. "I watch it sometimes," he said quietly. "When I can't sleep." Rebecca walked closer. "Why?" "Because that night," he said, voice trembling slightly, "was the last time I remember being happy without needing a reason." His confession hung in the air like fog. Rebecca sank onto the couch beside him, staring at the paused image. "You look different there," she said. "You look free." He laughed softly, a sound caught between memory and regret. "I used to think love made me weaker, that if I cared too much I'd lose focus. My father used to say emotions destroy men, that you have to choose between being loved and being respected." She looked at him. "And which one did you choose?" He hesitated. "Respect. Every time." Rebecca's eyes softened. "My mother used to tell me the opposite, that a woman has to love hard because if she doesn't, no one will love her back the same way." For a long time, neither spoke. The silence wasn't cruel this time, it was shared, understanding. She continued quietly, "I grew up believing love meant proving yourself, earning affection. I thought if I did everything right, stayed patient, stayed kind, you'd remember me. Tony's throat tightened. Rebecca! She blinked, fighting tears. But you didn't. You just worked harder. And I kept shrinking smaller, until one day I realized I was the ghost of the woman you married. He turned to her then, his voice low, almost breaking. You weren't invisible to me, Rebecca. I just didn't know how to love you without feeling like I was failing at everything else. Her hand trembled. You already were failing, just not at what you thought. The honesty hurt, but it also healed. Something inside both of them cracked. Not from pain, but from release. Tony leaned back, staring at the frozen wedding frame. I miss that woman, he whispered. Rebecca looked down, her voice soft. She's still here. She's just tired of waiting. They sat there for hours, the city lights flickering across their faces. No grand gestures, no easy forgiveness. Just two broken people finally speaking in the same language again. Truth. When she finally stood to leave, Tony called after her. Rebecca. She turned at the doorway. He swallowed hard. Would you stay for dinner tomorrow? Just us. No phones. No meetings. Just us. Her lips parted, unsure whether to say yes or protect her heart. Finally, she nodded once. I'll think about it. And though the answer was small, Tony smiled for the first time in months. It wasn't victory, but it was hope. Do you believe people can truly change once they've hurt the person they love? Or is it always too late? Tell me what you'd do if you were Rebecca. The next evening, Rebecca found herself standing outside the dining room door, hesitant. She could smell the faint aroma of garlic and herbs drifting through the air. Familiar, comforting. Tony was inside, setting the table. There were no maids, no chefs, no business calls. Just him. Sleeves rolled up, hair a little messy, candles flickering. She leaned against the doorway. You cooked. He looked up and smiled. Awkwardly, but real. Attempted to. No guarantees on taste or survival. She chuckled softly, the sound surprising even herself. You never used to cook. I never used to have a reason to, he said simply. The air shifted. He gestured for her to sit, and she did cautiously. The table was small tonight, intimate. Pasta, salad, a bottle of wine. Nothing extravagant, yet everything she had been missing. They began to eat. It wasn't perfect, the pasta was slightly overcooked, the sauce a little salty, but it was human. Tony poured her wine, avoiding her eyes at first. I used to think providing for you meant giving you everything money could buy. But I never realized you didn't need any of it. Rebecca swirled the glass, watching the liquid catch the light. You can't buy presents, Tony. You can't outsource affection. I know. His voice cracked. And I hate that it took losing you to see it. She studied him. He wasn't performing now. The billionaire mask was gone. Just a man trying to reach the woman he'd almost lost. After dinner, they lingered in the living room. Rain tapped against the window again, softer this time, almost like music. Rebecca crossed her legs on the couch. Do you remember the last time we just sat like this? Tony smiled faintly. Yeah, the night before our wedding. You told me you were scared you'd disappear into my world. And you promised I wouldn't, she said. He nodded. I broke that promise, didn't I? Rebecca hesitated. You forgot it. He moved closer, not touching her yet. Can I remember it now? She didn't answer, just looked at him. Their silence spoke for them. After a moment, she laughed softly. You know, when that selfie went viral, people thought I was cheating. They didn't realize I was grieving. Tony frowned gently. Grieving? Yeah, she whispered. Grieving a man who was still alive. The line hit him like a bullet. He reached for her hand slowly, as if asking permission. When she didn't pull away, his fingers closed around hers. Warm, hesitant, trembling. "I'm sorry," he said, voice breaking. "For every night I made you feel invisible. For every word I didn't say. For every moment I wasn't here." Rebecca blinked back tears. "I don't want your apologies, Tony. I want your attention." He nodded, eyes wet. "Then you'll have it. Starting now." She didn't say anything, but for the first time in months, she let her head rest against his shoulder. The quiet between them wasn't empty anymore. The city outside glowed beneath the rain, and for a fleeting moment, the world felt soft again. Can love really heal once it's been neglected? Or is this peace just temporary before the next heartbreak? What would you hope for them next? For 3 quiet days, peace held. Rebecca and Tony shared breakfasts again. She smiled more. He checked his phone less. The air around them felt lighter, fragile, like a truce signed in whispers. But peace is fragile when pride still hides beneath forgiveness. On the 4th morning, Tony's phone buzzed non-stop. He ignored it until Rachel's name appeared on the screen. He stepped out onto the balcony to answer. "What is it?" Her voice was tense. "You need to see this before the media does." He frowned, opening the link she sent. Headline: Rebecca Whitmore seen laughing with delivery man again. Secret meetings confirmed? Below the headline, blurry photos, Rebecca outside a cafe, Marcus handing her a paper bag and smiling. Tony's chest constricted. The world tilted. It didn't matter that the picture was innocent. It looked like betrayal. Again. Inside, Rebecca was arranging fresh flowers on the table, humming to herself. When she saw his expression as he came back in, her smile vanished. "What's wrong?" He tossed his phone on the counter. "You tell me." She glanced down, froze. Her face paled. "Oh God, Tony, that's—" He cut her off. "You promised me you were done seeing him." "I didn't see him. He runs deliveries for the florist. He brought these," she gestured to the bouquet, "and I thanked him, that's all." Tony laughed bitterly. "Right? Just like before." "Don't do that," she warned, voice shaking. "Don't twist this." "Twist what?" "The evidence. The whole world already thinks." "I don't care what the world thinks," she shouted suddenly, tears breaking free. "I care that you don't believe me." The room went still. Her words hung heavy between them. Tony's jaw tightened, his anger unraveling into something darker, fear. "How can I believe you when every time I start to trust again, something like this happens?" "Because I've never given you a reason not to," she said, voice breaking. "Except being lonely, except trying to survive your silence." He turned away, running a trembling hand through his hair. "Maybe we were better before, when we didn't pretend this marriage was still alive." Rebecca's face crumpled. "You don't mean that." He did. Or at least, part of him wanted to believe he did, because anger was easier than forgiveness. "I don't know what I mean anymore," he muttered, staring out at the skyline. "I just know I can't live under a microscope, waiting for the next headline." Rebecca took a deep breath, her voice low but steady. "And I can't keep proving my innocence to a man who doesn't trust my love." She grabbed her purse, her movements sharp but trembling. "I'm done, Tony. I can't fix what you won't face." He turned, panic flashing in his eyes. "Rebecca, wait." But she was already walking toward the door. Her final words were a whisper, soft, trembling. "Final. I gave you every chance to see me. Maybe now you finally will." The door closed behind her. Tony stood there, breath ragged, the sound of rain starting again outside. He sank to his knees, the flowers she'd arranged falling to the floor beside him. For the first time in his adult life, the man who built empires realized there was one thing he could not control: the cost of neglect. And this time it might be permanent. If you were in Tony's place and saw those photos, would you have trusted Rebecca, or reacted the same way? Be honest in the comments. The days that followed felt like winter, even though the city was still drenched in late summer heat. Rebecca had moved into a small hotel suite downtown. The room was clean, anonymous. A safe cocoon where no one knew her as Mrs. Whitmore. For the first time in years, she woke to silence that didn't ache. But peace had its own loneliness. She sat by the window, watching the city's pulse below. People rushing to work, couples holding hands, laughter spilling from cafes. Her phone buzzed endlessly with journalists asking for comment. She ignored them all. Instead, she opened the photo that had started everything, the selfie. Her smile looked different now. Not guilty, just lost. I just wanted to be seen, she whispered to her reflection in the glass. She didn't know if Tony would call. A part of her hoped he wouldn't, because forgiveness was exhausting. But another part of her, quieter and truer, still wanted him to. Across the city, Tony sat alone in his office. Papers and contracts lay untouched. His company's crisis team handled the scandal, but none of it mattered anymore. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, standing at the door, eyes full of sorrow. Maybe now you finally will. He had spent his whole life chasing control. And now, for the first time, he was powerless. He opened his laptop and stared at a blank page for a long time. Then he began to type. Rebecca, I used to think silence kept me safe, that if I stayed busy, I could outrun the parts of me that were scared. Scared to need, scared to love, scared to fail you. But the truth is, silence made me a coward. And it made you lonely. I can't ask you to come back. I can only ask for a chance to see you again, to listen this time. Not as the man everyone knows, but as the one who finally learned how to feel. Tony. He read it over once, twice, then sent it. Hours passed. Rebecca saw his name appear on her phone, her heart skipping the way it used to when they were new. Her thumb hovered over the message. She read every word. The ache in her chest swelled, but it wasn't anger anymore. It was grief mixed with love. For a moment, she considered deleting it, pretending she'd never seen it, starting over somewhere else. But something inside her, the same small, stubborn spark that had taken that selfie months ago, whispered, "You still care." She closed her eyes, exhaling shakily. Then she typed back, "Meet me at the place where it started." She pressed send before she could change her mind. That evening, she dressed simply. Jeans, a cream sweater, no makeup except for gloss. She looked like herself again. When she stepped into the little cafe where they'd first met 5 years ago, the bell above the door chimed softly. Tony was already there, sitting at their old table, nervously twisting his wedding band between his fingers. He looked up, and for a moment words failed him. Rebecca smiled faintly. "You remembered." He stood, voice quiet. "How could I forget the first place I saw you smile?" She sat across from him, her heartbeat loud in her ears. They didn't touch. They didn't cry. Not yet. But in that small space between them, filled with silence, memories, and hope, love started breathing again. If you were Rebecca, would you meet him again? Or walk away to protect your peace? What would you choose? Love or closure? The cafe was nearly empty. Soft jazz hummed in the background, and golden light pooled through the windows like honey. For a long time, Tony and Rebecca just sat there. Two people who had been both strangers and soulmates, waiting for the courage to speak. Tony was the first to break the silence. "I used to come here after meetings," he said, "just to remember what happiness felt like. You always ordered that ridiculous caramel latte with extra whipped cream." Rebecca smiled faintly. "You said it looked like a child's drink. And then I tried it," he said, eyes softening. "And I ordered it every week after you stopped coming." She laughed quietly, the kind of laugh that felt like a crack in the clouds after endless rain. Then came the pause, the one where truth had to finally find its way out. Tony's voice lowered. "I thought if I built something big enough, strong enough, you'd be proud of me. I didn't realize what you really wanted was something I already had." She tilted her head. "And what's that?" He met her gaze. "My time, my presence, my heart." Her throat tightened. For a moment, she couldn't speak. "You hurt me, Tony," she said softly. "Not just with neglect, but with doubt. You stopped believing in us." "I know." His voice trembled. "And if it takes the rest of my life to rebuild that belief, I'll do it. No more empty promises. No more silence. Just truth." They sat there, the words hanging between them. Fragile, but real. Then, slowly, Rebecca reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. "Do you remember the selfie that started all this?" He smiled faintly. "Hard to forget." She opened the camera and held it up. "Let's take another one." Tony blinked. "Now?" "Yes," she said, her tone gentle but certain. "Not for the world. For us." He leaned in, unsure, nervous. For the first time, the man who once faced boardrooms and empires was afraid of a camera. She pressed closer until their shoulders touched. The screen reflected two tired, imperfect people. Still bruised, still learning, but alive with something new. When the shutter clicked, Rebecca looked at the photo and smiled. "There," she said softly. "That's the one that changes everything." He exhaled, eyes wet. "Why?" "Because this time," she said, "you're really here." Later that night, they walked out into the city together. The air smelled like rain and promise. He slipped his hand into hers, tentative at first, then firm, like he was holding on to something he finally understood how to cherish. They didn't talk about the headlines or forgiveness or the past. They just walked together. At one point, Rebecca looked up at him and whispered, "You know, the world might never believe our story." Tony smiled. "They don't have to." He kissed her forehead, gentle and reverent. "As long as you do." And under the soft glow of streetlights, the man who once neglected his wife finally realized that love isn't built in boardrooms or bought with diamonds. It's found in the quiet act of showing up. The next morning, Rebecca posted the selfie. No caption, no statement, just a photo, two souls smiling again after a storm. Within hours, it spread across social media with one simple comment pinned to the top. "Sometimes, love doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to come home." Would you have given him another chance after everything? Do you believe true love deserves a second beginning? Share your thoughts in the comments. Rebecca would want to know. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.